therapy. It puts my anxious thoughts to sleep. Helps me focus my attention. Avoid the fear of imperfection. I know it's never too late to sit down and pen another verse. It's how I seem to calm myself down, eternally conversing. There must be millions of us out there who struggle with their words. But when I'm stuck inside my headspace, I'm in a lonely universe. But music is my therapy.
Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your F1 Monday Night Pit Stop. I'm, of course, your host, Martin the Gov Lambert, and I'm looking forward to sitting down, discussing some F1 bits and pieces with you. A bit of a slightly smaller agenda than normal this week because there's no race, so it's technically a fun day Monday, if you like. We've got 4 items on the agenda that we agree in our little F1 WhatsApp group, and we'll see what else crops up. We've got some fantasy tidbits. I know Steve's very excited for the upcoming race this weekend. I'll let you work out why, or let him tell you why. But yeah, we've got some F1 fantasy update, maybe who you should be looking at, who shouldn't be looking at, as we head into what is the British Grand Prix. Do not forget, we would like you to get active in our live interactive chat. Any comment put in the chat, we will put on the screen. Have your say. It is an F1 fan show. Alternatively, if you feel that passionately about something you believe in, be it Hamilton, Verstappen, maybe Steve's favourite, Bottas, maybe Mr. Saturday, can George Russell get over the Sunday nerves, as I'll start calling them, because at the moment he's fantastic on a Saturday and on a Sunday, not so. If you want to get involved, use that link in the chat and get yourself on the show. Have your say. Have your opinion heard. Right. I've mentioned him a couple of times. Let's bring him in. He is, of course, our F1 aficionado, Stephen Thompson. Good afternoon, good evening, Mr. Thompson. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm well. Yourself?
Very well, sir. Very well, sir. And do not forget, you can listen to this man's voice, my voice, and Mr. Positivity's voice on all good podcast platforms. Wherever you find your podcast, just search F1 Fan Show Live. Leave a 5-star review and let Steve know in that review what you think of Russell. Is that fair, Steve? Should we get some Russell opinions on our 5-star reviews?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah, because how is he going to get over these Saturday nerves?
I don't know if it's Saturday nerves as such. I think it's just the car letting him down.
But it's Sunday nerves, because Saturday he's brilliant. It's
Sunday nerves even.
He's not so great on, is he?
It's the poor start in Austria cost him later on in the race. It could have cost him the points. Who knew? Who knows? But yeah, I think the points are coming for him soon.
You hope.
It's looking good.
You hope.
I've got faith. I've got faith.
It's becoming a bit of a running thing, though, isn't it? Because it's not just the 1 or 2 weeks now where he's been really sort of good on the Saturday, got you excited as a Williams fan, as an F1 fan, and then not. Is it purely down to the car? Is it down to car and driver?
There's been some driver in there as well. If we take Austria, for example, the last race. He was 8th on the grid, I think. He started 8th because he moved up a place because of a penalty, and he was 9th on the grid on qualifying originally. And he made a poor start and he dropped back, and he was then sort of playing catch up for the remainder of the race. If we go to the race beforehand, though, he finished 12th. Brilliant race in 12th, but it was just typical that there were no retirements ahead of him. If there were, he could maybe have picked up a point or two. Yeah. So there's been a sort of a mixture of just the car letting him down, not being quick enough, and then there have been some driver issues as well, some driver errors. Think back to Imola this year, that crash with Bottas, and then think back to Imola last year when he dropped it under the safety car. So there's all things he's ironing out.
For sure. ITFC Tweedy, Russell equals future world champion.
Not for sure.
You feel that passionately about it?
Yep, absolutely. I'll bet my bass guitars on it.
Okay. No, I said at the start of the show, you were buzzing. You were excited because it's race week, but it's the British Grand Prix race week. What particularly about this one has got you absolutely buzzing, Steve?
Well, this is one of the Grand Prix I always look forward to. Any season because it's the home of Formula One. The atmosphere is electric. You've got people like Hamilton, obviously, drawing more and more fans in. You've got some very talented young British drivers on there with Russell and Norris as well.
Yeah,
this race is more special because I'm actually going, and I cannot wait. I'm going with me and my partner are going, my
And
best
JT?
mate as well. No, not JT, James. So me and my
James.
best buddy, my missus, we're all going up to Silverstone, and we're there for the whole 3 days. Absolutely,
so at least you'll see one good day of George Russell, right?
Yeah, I mean he'll be there on the Saturday. Hopefully the Sunday it'll sort of translate over. But
what are you most looking forward to?
I think actually just hearing because where we're sitting at Copse Corner, which is the old turn 1, which is quite a fast sweeping right-hander. I think it's a corner where Schumacher broke his leg back in '99, so it's quite a tricky corner if you sort of get it wrong. Just seeing the cars screaming around there, which is going to be brilliant because it's about halfway around the lap. So they're all still going to be quite close and quite bunched up when they get to that corner. And even just walking around, looking at all the different sort of the merchandise stores and everything like that. Simple things, but I can't wait for it.
Absolutely. Is it your first time?
First ever Grand Prix, yeah.
Okay, right. We'll see. Let's bring in our third contributor. He's, of course, everyone's favourite, Mr. Positivity.
Wake up to the, wow. Wake up to the money, turn me right on. You look like you got dressed with no lights on. I'm Superman that spin like a cyclone. Fit check, spin like a cyclone. Wake up to the money, turn me right on.
Yeah, but we're crap. We're not going to dominate any team.
Mr. Neil Moles. How are you feeling this evening, Mr. Moles?
Oh, I'm superb.
Absolutely. Oh, you're superb.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know she was in the hotel room with you. Tell me, Neil, have you ever been to Silverstone?
I have.
You have?
Yep.
For a
I've
Grand
not
Prix?
seen a race there. No. I've done some half marathons there.
Oh, very nice. So you've pounded the tarmac.
I have.
Okay, fantastic.
Very good it was.
So you've never been for a Grand Prix at Silverstone, though?
No.
Okay. So you're a
No,
bit
the
jealous
only... I don't know. The only Grand Prix Formula One wise that I've been to was in Melbourne.
Ah, okay. I thought we were going to at risk there, Steve, of getting a bit of positivity out of him. But then he went, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm jealous of Steve, but I thought we might get a little bit there. But I'll talk about George Russell this weekend. Obviously, British driver, British Grand Prix, Mr. Saturday, as I've sort of started to call him. Do you think this weekend is the weekend Steve can look forward to in terms of Russell doing something on each day, or do you feel still the points will evade Mr. Russell?
Well, it will slightly go into one of the talking points we've got for this evening. They've got a little sprint race on Saturday, so if he's Mr. Saturday, he'll do quite fine with that.
Okay, so what is that for the new watchers among us, like myself? What is that? What do you mean when you say there's a sprint race on Saturday? That's not happened so far this season. What's the change there? What's going on?
Well, it's part of reverse grids didn't make it, so this is one of their little shake-ups. They're trialing at a couple of races, and basically, is it Friday practice is staying fairly similar to normal. And then Saturday, you've got is it Friday is normal everyone gets soft tyres and they qualify for the sprint race for the Saturday.
Yeah.
And then the Saturday is 100-kilometer race that finishing is the start grid for the Sunday.
Yeah. So you've got FP1 as normal on a Friday, followed by the normal quali. The sprint half-hour sprint race after an FP2 on Saturday, and then there's just no FP3 because then you go into the main Grand Prix on Sunday. So it's going to be interesting because someone like Russell, he can get crazy one-lap pace out of that car. It's quite similar to Jarno Trulli. He was just unbelievable in qualifying. He had this one-lap pace, which is brilliant. Although he's quicker than Trulli during a race, but if he can get a good one lap out of that Williams on the Friday qualifying, he's just got to make it as wide as possible for the sprint race. And, it could be good for the Grand Prix as well. So it'll certainly be interesting to see how it's going to work out with strategy.
Who should benefit from this then? Really, I mean, obviously you're going to have the top players.
The top three.
Should. Okay, just the top three, or is anybody else on the outside pack who can't put a consistent race but can put those good laps as Steve was saying in terms of Russell together? Is there anybody on the outside looking in that might be thinking this is a good opportunity?
Well, I say the top three because they're the only ones in the sprint race that are getting points.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be your Max, Lewis, and Bottas or Perez that will benefit from this. But no, in general, it's for the fans. The way they're promoting it is it will give more for the fans to watch. If you're there for the whole weekend, there'll be more. Did you get tickets for the whole weekend or just the?
Yeah, whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Excellent, nicely done.
I can see where they're coming from, because if you've got FP1 and FP2 on a Friday, you could be sitting there in your grandstand or in your seat, and there's not a lot happening because you've got teams that are going to be running different strategies and they're doing different programs during these sessions. They could be sitting in the garage for 25 minutes, whatever it is, doing nothing. So you want to get as much action as you can. So 2 races and a decent quality on Friday, I think, is a good opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Is this with eyes for keeping it long term or keeping it in every race, or is this just a trial and we'll review it in a year, 2 years time? What's the situation with that?
I believe myself, if this goes well, they will try and push it for more races.
Okay.
I still think that the governing body would like to put reverse grids in there at some point, but I think that hinges solely on next season and how well the cars can follow. If that goes well, then I think they'll try and push that in as well. But yeah, I think this is a little glimpse into what they would like to change it. But with F1 being very much one of these stuck in their ways and not liking change, tradition. Yeah. This is how they're having to do it.
A reverse grid was almost. Could that not be counterintuitive there, Steve? Because where's the incentive to deliver a really good qualifying if it's reverse grid?
I don't know. I think the reverse grids. I'm not a massive fan of them, to be honest. I understand why Formula One is looking at changing it, because it's been quality's been unchanged since 2006 when they first brought in this sort of 3-stage knockout session. They've changed various things at the times of each session and who gets knocked out and that sort of thing. But reverse grids, I don't think are the answer, because, like you say, where's the real sort of incentive? And it depends how well the cars follow anyway. Because if you're doing a reverse grid, so if you take this season for example, you're going to have
Mazepin 1 and 2.
It'll be Mazepin and Schumacher on that front row, almost guaranteed. And if the cars can't then follow, and next year they should obviously be able to, but if the cars can't then follow or can't overtake, then everyone's going to be in a train behind the 2 Haas cars and probably Latifi. So,
or it'll be a safety car race, because normally the like Mazepin, for example, has been spinning out on a couple of races. You might have a good portion of the race, Steve, be a safety car race, because you've had the worst drivers per se leading the race in closer proximity, making mistakes at the start, right?
Possibly. I mean, they're all good drivers. Obviously, some are better than others, but
they've all made it there for a reason.
Yeah. But it's like comparing elite racehorses or elite footballers. When you say he's the worst footballer, well, he still might be inside the top 1% of the country, but they're all great drivers, absolutely, all better than us 3 put together. But in terms of Hamilton down to the last person on the grid, the last person on the grid is probably much worse than Hamilton. That's just the nature of it.
I'll be interested to see what happens if they did do it and you did have that 1-2 on the grid of the 2 Haas cars. You've got Schumacher and Mazepin there. How they would handle having someone like Hamilton bearing down on them for laps at a time. The pressure that would put on them would scare the hell out of them.
I know it's not always for the better, but with that sort of thing, you fully know that people will use tactics and
Hmm.
will sandbag to get themselves in a certain place. And it'd be interesting to find out how they would try and handle that. But no, the main thing you say, who would benefit, why do it, would it be any good? But as Martin Brundle said, it would force teams to actually make a car that would actually be able to follow another and overtake, because you'd have to do it because they don't bother now.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
It is right. Another tricky one. Williams 2022. Who should Williams sign for 2022? Steve, kick us off on that one because obviously you're the big Williams fan. I'm sure Steve and Neil can come in on your points.
I'm going on the basis that Mercedes have signed Russell for 2022 and Russell has gone to the Silver Arrows. So Williams have 1, potentially 2 seats vacant on who they would sign. I think they would keep Latifi. As much as that frustrates me, because he's been in Formula 1 now for over a year and he's way off the pace of Russell still. And one of the names I've seen floated around quite a lot recently is Nico Hülkenberg, which I would definitely take. Started his career at Williams back in 2010.
Yeah.
Solid driver.
You really would, because you've spoken highly about Nico for a long time now. Ever
For
since
me
we started
to-
doing these shows, definitely.
For me to jump in there, Latifi has, I'm sure there's some deal that's happened, so he's got some backing to him, and I'm sure there's been some money cross palms, so I think that will mean he will hang around. But I'm with you.
Yeah,
I would rather he wasn't. He's not good enough.
Williams. No, Williams are in this sort of position now. When they took him on, when they first hired him, they needed him because he brought money into the team, money which Williams didn't have. Now Williams are owned by this American consortium. It's Doralton Capital, sorry. Now they're owned by them. They've got this large injection of cash coming in. So they don't, I mean, it's going to take time for the finances to build up, but they're not going to be as reliant on pay drivers. They can go for drivers who are there purely on talent and they don't come with a massive checkbook. I mean, all drivers are going to have some level of sponsorship to them and they'll all bring in some money. Obviously more than others. So Mazepin, Stroll, Latifi bring more in. But they shouldn't really keep needing to go for drivers with that sort of thing now. But
Are there other cars on the grid that perhaps do need that in the same way Williams used to? So Latifi could maybe be going to them with the backing. And Daniel Barnes says, I reckon Schumacher will go somewhere else next year. And Gov, you're a bit croaky today. Yes, that would be the shouting at the TV last night.
Didn't quite go to plan, did it, Martin?
No, my shouts didn't see. They didn't seem to hear my shouts. If they had it done, they would have won by a convincing margin. But Steve, is there another car on the grid?
I don't really think so because Haas have got the money they need now because they've got Mazepin's money coming in. Aston got Stroll's money.
They're the only one I believe that could benefit from some extra money because then it's not solely on Mazepin's whatever Mazepin Senior is.
So
Yeah,
Schumacher and Latifi swap?
Well, in an ideal world, what I'd love to see, because Raikkonen is now almost 41, so at the end of the year, because Raikkonen doesn't have what he used to have, if Raikkonen retires, Schumacher goes to Alfa Romeo, because that's another Ferrari-backed team. Schumacher's a Ferrari-backed driver. You've got Giovinazzi, who's now been around for a little while. He knows what he's doing. He can lead a team with Schumacher alongside him. You've got a spare seat at Haas. If Latifi can then go to Haas, that'll be brilliant. Because you've then got Haas can then have extra money coming in, not just Mazepin's money.
And you lose Latifi.
And Latifi gets out of my team. As much as I like the guy, he's a lovely guy. It seems like when you see him interviewed and things, great guy. But unfortunately, he's just way off the pace. I mean, Russell's now getting that car into Q3, which he has no right being in Q3. And Latifi cannot get out of Q1. Russell's been in Q2 in every race this year.
The main thing in this is what will happen to Bottas and the fact that Wolf is quite friendly with him. He won't want to see him basically dumped to the wayside. I know he can do that because the fact that what's happened to Van Dorn, who is also someone that could potentially grab a seat at Williams.
There's a long list of drivers.
A little bit further off, De Vries, who is another Mercedes guy, but he's in Formula E.
Yeah.
Um,
You've even got. Sorry, carry on.
yeah, it's would they just do a straight swap deal? So Bottas goes to Williams.
Well, that's
Russell
it. That's
goes Mercedes.
That's the most common sort of theory that's been going around. I mean, the Hulkenberg one, I would love it because, like I say, he started his career there. I've been a big fan of him all his career. And I think he's just what the team needs, really. That sort of experienced driver leading him into a new era of Formula One. But yeah, the most obvious.
Imagine having Bottas and Hulkenberg.
I would happily take that. I really would, because you've got two solid drivers there who are both quick. Bottas has now not got this pressure of being Hamilton's shadow. He can do what he did at Williams before, which is why Mercedes took him on. So he can get back to the driver he used to be. Hulkenberg will push him all the way, guaranteed. Oh, you're right, Neil. And I would happily take that, but I can't see. I can see one of them going there, probably Bottas, but I think it's pretty obvious that Latifi will be in that seat next year.
There's a few names that I've heard to continue it. The fact that Gasly's been mentioned, his long shot, because would he want to cut ties with Red Bull?
It's a step
and
as well.
The fact that it depends whether you believe that Williams are going to make a step up or not. There's Kvyat. I don't know quite how you pronounce his name, but yeah.
Kvyat would be good. I think he could flourish in that.
There's also Guan Yu Zhou, the Chinese.
You got Guan Yu Zhou, Jack Aitken as well. He raced for Williams actually last year when Russell was at Mercedes.
Was at Mercedes, yeah.
With Zhou,
Russell.
With Zhou, you've got the fact that he's Chinese, and that will open up the Chinese market.
Yeah.
Is that something the F1 team look at? Is that something more the F1 governing body will look at? What?
That's something F1 would love, but if that's linked to a team and you think they're buying merchandise and getting involved, it can never be a bad thing.
There's never been a Chinese F1 driver. You've had obviously the Japanese, you've had Thailand, you've Indonesian, I think with Rio Haryanto. You've never had, there's all these sort of other nations, you've never had a Chinese F1 driver. You've had Chinese test drivers, because there was a lad called, I think his name was Ma King Haag or something. I think he tested for HRT. But there's never been a Chinese F1 driver.
So,
there, along with that line of Alpine drivers, Piastri, apparently he's in second place in GP2 at the moment. He's less experienced than Zhou, but he's apparently looking really good. So he's got more room to grow. There's Tictum. It was mentioned that there's something about him. I obviously live under a rock and I know nothing about him, but I don't know if he's said something or done something. But
yeah, I'm not a fan of Tictum. He's his outbursts on the radio are ridiculous. He's always crying about something. He was ousted from the Red Bull family. He's been banned before, I think, for deliberately hitting his teammate on track. Hitting a rival or something, but I'm not a huge fan of Tictum, so I'd rather not him. He's a very, very long shot anyway, massive long shot.
Yeah, I have two more people just before we move this along. There's obviously Albon, who is wanting a race seat, and the last one for me is Lance Stroll.
Oh, please
I know he's at his dad's team at this minute, but I've heard it mentioned that if they want to consider themselves a big team pushing forward, he's potentially the one that's holding them back. So would his dad put his money just to get his son a seat somewhere else so that he can get his team to move forward?
Go to Haas.
Because I don't think he's actually contracted.
Interesting. Go to Haas. Don't go to Williams again. I had nothing about Williams.
Interesting list there from Neil. Which one, as the Williams fan, sort of really appeals to you?
To be fair, the earlier ones we suggested of Hulkenberg and Bottas, I would happily take Bottas back in Williams. Hulkenberg would be great, but it might be a little bit too far out there. Albon would be really good because he's still a young kid. He's got his whole Formula One career ahead of him. He's got a lot to prove. He'll be out of that pressure with Red Bull, but would Red Bull want to let him go? Have they got plans for him in the future if he does come good? Unless they sort of loan him out to a team for a period of time, let him build up those skills, and then bring him in.
Jordan, I swear to God, one day I'm going to get a little jingle for this part of the show because it is a regular feature on our show. He says, Neil, I swear it always looks like you're in a hotel of some sort, some commitment of so. Yes, Neil is a roving reporter for the F1 show. He's often out and about on the roads of the United Kingdom. Where has
Monaco this week?
Well,
I'm lucky this week because I actually made it to the hotel.
He did.
I'm not in the van today.
In the last couple of weeks, he's been in the van wearing his fluorescents. So where has the roads of the UK taken you today, Mr. Moles?
I'm in Luton today.
Luton? Beautiful.
It's not
Luton.
actually where I'm working. I'm working in Leighton Buzzard.
There we go. More in-depth analysis on the UK roads coming soon, courtesy of Neil Moles. Roads you won't be seeing though this year is the Australian Grand Prix. Cancelled apparently, is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Such a shame.
Why is it a shame?
Well, they redeveloped the track.
I was going to say, would we get the updated version or would we still be...
Yeah, we'll get the updated version because I saw a photo a few weeks back of how it was looking, and it's completely different. Any traces of the old tarmac is just gone. And there's just this sweeping right-hander into a left now, it looks really good.
Yet to be convinced by it. It's as if someone's cut all the corners. It's as how you used to do it on the racing games.
Yeah,
if you wanted to gain time, you just cut across the little bit of tarmac that's across the grass, and it's pretty much what they've done with it now. Just removed all the corners, just cut across.
Yeah, it remains to be seen, obviously, whether it would provide more overtaking and better racing at that circuit, like they said it would. But obviously, we won't know now until next year. And I feel so bad for Ricciardo because he's not been to Australia now for a long time. He's not seen his family for a while, and he was absolutely gutted about it, and rightly so. That's one of my favourite Grand Prix as well because it's always what usually is the season opener. Obviously, we didn't go there. We did go there last year, but then there wasn't a race. We didn't go there at the start of this season. It was going to be in November. I think this is sort of towards the end of the year this year. Now it's not happening at all. So
that's a shame. Does the new track, just by looking at it, is that going to make for a better race or a more safer race in terms of not much overtaking and not much excitement? And if you've already got your position in qualifying, just get round and that many mechanical failures, you'll be all right.
I don't quite know. Yeah, it will definitely be that. I don't quite know which way it's going to go. They commented saying they're bringing it up to the new age with these fast flowing corners and things. It's the way Formula One's moving, but whether it will make more exciting races is yet to be seen. They've kept that fast chicane, haven't they, round the back end?
Yeah.
But
the tricky thing is, they say obviously Formula One's moving in this direction, but the circuits they're introducing and the circuits they've got don't provide great racing.
That'd be room service.
Oh, there we go.
That'd be room service, Steve. That'd be room service.
Pizzas and beers.
Well, absolutely, all around from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere. Back to the British Grand Prix this weekend, then. He is back. Before we come on, where we expect some of our English drivers, our British drivers to finish, fantasy-wise, who would both of you be advising the guys and girls at home to be targeting or dropping in their lineups this week? Steve, you can go first. It's the British Grand Prix.
Well, I've made a couple of changes. I dropped Vettel after bringing Vettel back in. I've dropped him again. So he's been dropped a second time. I brought in Pierre Gasly in his place.
Why
Gasly?
Gasly?
Been going very well. He's been going so well. I think he's started in the top 6 in every race so far this year. He's absolutely on another level. He's brilliant. and I've made my turbo driver as Norris now. So because he's been doing again so well. So I'd definitely advise picking if you can, if you've got the budget to do it. Of course, Verstappen's obviously got to be up there. Norris is going to be up there. Russell, just because he's British, go for Russell.
Yeah, as you have done the whole season.
Whole season, I can't drop him
because the moment you
I
do,
don't
you'll
know
get
if
points.
I've got the budget space. I think I would like to swap Ricardo for Gasly.
I did have Ricardo, but I dropped him as well.
I've still got Ricardo, but out of the two McLaren drivers, he hasn't been the best one, has he, Neil?
I think you could not just say for McLaren. In general, he hasn't been the best. I feel sorry for him.
Yeah. Something's not clicking there, is it?
No.
And you can tell it hurts him because he doesn't really know what it is that isn't working. But Norris he almost got pole position in Australia and Austria, sorry. And he was out Ricardo was out in Q2 again. Very similar to Latifi.
I've still got Tsunoda in my lineup, Neil. Talk to me about
that's another one. He came in strong, didn't he? He had a little bit of an iffy one in Imola, and he had a little bit of a bounce back on another track. I can't remember which one it was that he did know, and then he's tailed off again. Other than that early on where everyone was raving about him, he's just found himself a bit missing, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, they've got confidence that he's going to be around for a while because Franz Tost said that, or was it Helmut Marko? Someone said that it'll take him a good few years to become a proper F1 driver, in sort of other words than that. But they've obviously got faith in him, and they're obviously thinking of him in the long term, saying it'll take him a few years to properly develop as a Formula One driver. Which, yeah, you can't expect him to jump in and be incredible right away.
Well, I did.
I mean, to be fair, I thought he'd be doing better
Lewis
than he is.
did.
Yeah, Lewis was in a very, very good McLaren.
Yeah,
But
I haven't
then
got
again-
years here, guys. I think to be a great driver. I've got. Do I make the change or do I not? Because I've got Ricardo and Tsunoda as my midfield, if you like. You look at my lineup, and I've got to change one of them, and it's like
I almost wonder whether to, because I think Russell would still get you some good points, even though he doesn't do a lot on a Sunday. But if I potentially swap Tsunoda and Russell, and then try and get Gasly for Ricardo. That's what I'd like to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing with Russell, because he's in a car that's further down the grid, if he does finish 11th or 12th, he's going to get you some solid points. And the chances are he'll get you some points for having a good qualifying as well. That was sort of my logic on it. So he'll get me some good points because he qualifies well. If he gets me points in the race, then brilliant. But if he finishes in the top 12, then he does get some good points for basically being up where that car shouldn't be.
Would you still persist with Leclerc, Neil?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah? Do you feel that he's a good driver to have it if you've not yet got him in amongst your fantasy lineup?
I wanted him, but I couldn't afford him, so I went for the second best and had Sainz.
Okay. Yeah. 14.3 million. Gasly's 11.9. So I don't know. So I'm looking at this lineup because it's not been a great couple of weeks for me. I'm going to be honest.
It's one of those where he got Vettel back in, and it didn't work out. Just because Leclerc's had a couple of iffy weekends, he'll be back.
Well, I put Vettel in just before Azerbaijan because I thought I can't remember who I swapped out. I think I swapped out Ricciardo and put Vettel in, and had, I think, Perez as my turbo driver. And then they ended up with a great race with Perez won that race, and Vettel was up on the podium. So I thought, brilliant. Okay, so it was a good thing getting Vettel back in. And since then, he's done nothing again, really. But we had some good races sort of around that point of the season, but he's fallen away from it again. So I'm putting my faith in Gasly.
I have just been playing around with it, and this is what I've not yet submitted it, but I could deliver this. So I could have my new lineup of Verstappen, who I didn't have before, Hamilton, who I didn't have before, Norris, who I did have before.
Mhm.
Okay, so top 3 like that, and then you're backing that up because then got to go cheap because you've spunk your budget up the wall on basically 3 really good drivers,
Mhm.
Mick Schumacher and George Russell. So Russell, Schumacher, and then you've got Verstappen, Hamilton, and Norris. With the
What team have you got?
that's, I mean, I could look to change that if I look to change, but I've got AlphaTauri at the moment.
Okay. I mean, to be fair, that's a pretty decent team. I mean, if you've got to go for one of the cheaper drivers, sort of at the bottom end of the grid, Schumacher would be the one to go for. I mean, you're not going to go for Mazepin
No, I'd like to finish races if I can.
or Latifi. So I think, to be fair, if you've got to have some backup drivers to those sort of 3, Russell and Schumacher are decent shouts.
No,
I'm not sure quite. Yeah, I like the fact that I've got Red Bull, having not checked out what gets you the good end of the points. I don't know how much the team that you've picked matters. The fact that what these lower drivers would end up losing you potentially, compared to obviously Hamilton and Verstappen are going to get you all the points, but how it works out. Obviously, I guess some of the guys, as we're being absolutely smashed, if I'm honest, they actually know what they're doing. Whereas I don't even know what's getting us points. So
that's true. Yeah.
The thing is, some people are changing their drivers week in, week out, it seems, as well, because the drivers are on form, bam, they're straight in there. Whereas I can't get rid of Russell just because I like him. I should get rid of him because I need a driver who can fight for points better or more regularly, but I can't.
Point scoring. Here we go. Point scoring, right? It doesn't say. Just says...
there is a list on there somewhere. It will tell you for qualifying, for the race, and
your drivers and
overtakes
constructors score points based on the performance in qualifying and race each week. All 5 drivers and 1 constructor score points each race week in line with the point scoring table, which is here. So I'm just going to go. So qualifying for Q1 finished 1 point, Q2 finished 2 points, Q3 finished 3 points, and qualified ahead of teammate 2 points. So
I'm always getting at least 2 points from Russell.
So yeah, so if you and did not qualify, driver only, that's -5, and disqualification from qualifying -10.
Oof.
Yeah, you get 10 points for pole position, 9 for second, 8 for third, 7 for fourth, and so forth. A point for finishing the race, 2 points for finished race position gained, 3 points for finish ahead of teammate. So if you've got Russell, you're going to get 3 points there, aren't you, every time?
Yep.
Fastest lap, 5 points. Started race in top 10, finished race but last position, -2. Started race outside top 10 and finished race but lost position, -1. That's where Russell's costing you points, I'd have thought, because he's starting quite well on the Saturday and then just sort of
loses point or loses positions.
Yeah. Not classified, driver only, -15 points. Disqualification from race, -20 points. Yeah. So that's it. I mean, so in terms of AlphaTauri, they've not done me too bad because they've got a good qualifying streak. Whereas sort of Alpine, Romeo, Williams, Haas haven't. But yeah, Red Bull are currently leading the charge based on the fact they're leading the.
Yeah, that's all I've got.
Jacob Farrow, I've got the same as mine. However, my only change from you is Stroll, and you have Verstappen. British Grand Prix, Steve's going. Where are the British drivers going to be finishing? Let's start with Lando Norris. Good race for him, bad race for him. I'll ask you, Steve, because Neil's the Norris fan.
Oh, good race. I'm going to say 4th place for Norris.
I was going to say 4th.
Okay, all right. So I mean that so if you want to put him in, you're going to get some decent points. You're going to get 12 points for a 4th place finish. So it's not too bad. Neil Hamilton, will he regain pole position on his home turf, or will Max Verstappen once again win it?
Well, there was some cheeky use of words. Basically, Mercedes were downplaying what improvements they're going to do. And it's come out that they are actually bringing some upgrades. So I'm going to say that Hamilton's going to win this one.
Okay, that would be a cheeky 10 points for Hamilton. Steve.
P2 for Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Verstappen will still have it.
Big shout. Russell, Mr. Thompson, your boy. Go on. What's he going to do?
P10.
I was going to say 14th.
I think he'll get a fastest. He'll get a fastest lap. He'll get a point, I think.
That'd be 1 point for Mr. Russell. Will he start in the top 10 and keep in the top 10, or will his qualifying be worse for the first time in a long time than his actual race?
Out in Q2, because there's a sprint thing in there. So I think out in Q2 on the Friday qualifying. So he'll just make it to the top 10 in the Sunday Grand Prix. I think the sprint race might be tricky, but I think playing the long game on Sunday, different strategies at play, then different tyres, I think he'll get into the top 10 just.
Okay.
Do you think, though, the fact that he could qualify well, but they've got the sprint race, he could lose places in the sprint race, and then obviously for the Sunday normal race, he'll then obviously start further back?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? It is a tricky one. I'm going to be very interested to see how that plays out and how different teams handle that sort of scenario, because there's going to be, you've got 10 different teams, half of them are going to think differently to the others, so there's going to be a lot of different strategies at play.
It will mostly be down to what cars suit this track, who's back in the running again, because obviously Alpine are suddenly good at certain tracks, Ferrari is good at others. It's, how strong each one. I'm hoping, obviously, McLaren, being my team, still in the mix.
I think that will be.
Austria could have been just one of their good tracks, so they could be back to scraping fourth places rather than getting on the podiums.
Well, let's wait and see. Steve, make sure you get a load of videos, a load of photos. You really enjoy your weekend. I'm really really excited for you. Neil, we'll just have to just slum it watching the television.
Enjoy.
In the way it is. But we're back next week, 7:15, where Steve will have the lowdown on hopefully a really, really good weekend. We'll see you then.
I'm sorry.
Kiss my